Well, if you ever asked yourself, why did we create money? This is the answer. It comes in chapter 2 here. So we're in chapter 2, and you've done your reading in the textbook. You know that the creation of money was a result of kind of a failure of the barter system. Bartering is the most basic economic system. It is where I trade what I do well, I have surplus of, I grow surplus of my service, if I'm a blacksmith, for example, and I trade it for something that you do well, you have surplus of, or that you provide a service. So I might trade my blacksmithing services to shoe your horse if you give me 5 gallons of milk, a gallon a week or whatever, just so that we can have, or cheese or something that, you do as a dairy farmer. But that limits us to the abilities to trade directly. So what we're going to talk about here is what happens when those wants and needs don't match up. So we call it a coincidence of wants or coincidence of needs. A coincidence of needs or wants means that I need milk, you need blacksmithing services. So we agree on an exchange rate of my service for your surplus, and we're both satisfied. But what happens when that doesn't work? So the book in Figure 2.1 talks about this. So I'm going to switch over to share my screen here, and I'm going to give you that analysis here. Okay, so here we are. You see this, see the 3 states, and it's, again, it's an oversimplification, but that's kind of what we need right now at this point. That money is what helps us trade when wants don't coincide, when we don't have the ability to satisfy each other's needs in terms of products, services, and that's why we created money. And again, what is money? Money is whatever the governing body says it is. There's obviously reports in the kingdoms of West Africa and Central Africa that seashells, salt, was considered currency. It was considered money. We consider rectangular pieces of paper money, and coins, metal coins. But you look at this particular chart, and again, it's kind of an oversimplification here, but nothing matches up. So the relationship here between Florida and Nebraska. Florida has obviously oranges, citrus, and they want wheat. Okay? Nebraska has the wheat, so that's like, hey, yeah, let's go talk to Nebraska and get it. But Nebraska doesn't want citrus. Nebraska wants potatoes. Now, obviously, if I could trade for potatoes, but I don't want potatoes. I'm Florida. I want wheat. I could trade for potatoes and then take those potatoes and then trade them to Nebraska. It'd be kind of a circular thing, but it'd take forever. But no, that even that doesn't work, because look at Florida versus Idaho. Florida has oranges to trade, but Idaho wants them. They say, like, yeah, we want oranges, but Florida wants wheat. They don't want potatoes. So there's no sale there. And Nebraska and Idaho. Nebraska wants potatoes. Okay, Idaho has them, but Idaho wants oranges. Idaho doesn't want wheat. So none of these things match up. So you can see how with money, you could then buy what you need. You could sell your surplus, accumulate money, and then purchase from somebody else that particular product. Now, again, money has to be, and we're going to get into this later when we talk about money creation, central bank, and things like that. That's kind of down the road here around midterms. Money, everybody has to understand what the value of money is. Everybody has to understand and believe that rectangular piece of paper is worth something. So therefore, its value can be assessed, and we could add up several of them and create a transaction here. But this is, this is craziness in the sense that you have so many different things going on, and you're not going to get a lot of transactions. The economy's not going to grow. So when, and money's been around. I mean, it's been around for 2,000 plus years. The idea of simple transactions, a village commune where we have a blacksmith and a cooper who makes barrels and a shoemaker who makes shoes, and, where everybody trades happily amongst, that's utopia, okay? It doesn't exist. We need money to make this work. I mean, in your stage of life, you have no skill set. perhaps maybe you can do a little bit of things with computers, or you can tutor in a foreign language maybe, but you can't necessarily trade that for a car, or, transportation services. So you need money, and therefore you will be a vendor of your services and a consumer of someone else's services. So this is how this works. Now, again, the economy gets specialized. Honestly, I'm going to stop the share here. Unless you have a question or whatever, you can sort of pause it and kind of read this over again. But again, this is figure 2.1 in your textbook. We specialize, all right? Society figured out 10,000 years ago that hunting and gathering wasn't exactly going to be something that is sustainable. You burn up an area of land and you got to pick up and move. So if you're a herdsman, for example, one of the reasons why India was settled about 3,500, 4,000 years ago was Central Asian peoples who were herders, nomadic, found a mountain pass, and they came across and said, whoa, green, and lots of green here. Valleys, lush, vegetation, nice temperature, climates. Wow, okay. So they came through the mountains and settled. And settling down required, obviously, a stable water source. So if you look at your ancient cultures, they're all developing along the ancient rivers: Indus, Tigris, Euphrates, Yangtze, Nile. You need a reliable source of water. But when they settled down, they realized that they weren't worried about food supplies. They were able to domesticate agriculture. They were able to domesticate animals, animal husbandry. And so it gave them the opportunity to not worry about having to feed themselves. So then they ended up specializing in other things: metalsmiths, potters, stonemasons, bakers, artisans. Everybody had a chance to specialize. And when we did that, when we started becoming specialized, it forced us realistically to get into this money economy, because your skill set could be so specialized that your ability to trade and barter your skills for someone else's or surplus of goods just isn't there. I mean, if you're a tutor in a foreign language, how many foreign language people can you get services back from, or produce back from, meat or dairy or something back from, clothing? You can't. I mean, you can do it in kind of a quid pro quo system for schoolwork. If you're good in physics, but you're not good in Spanish, well, you could tutor somebody in physics who happens to be really good in Spanish, and you work cooperatively together. Yeah, that works. But how many cases are you going to have of that? Not many. You can't. That's not going to work. So specialization brought specialization of labor. But again, the economy, if it's trying to be more efficient, is going to want to specialize. Why have generalists? And this is something that I think Henry Ford learned with the cars. Cars that were being manufactured in the 1890s and early 1900s. You put 40 people in a gigantic barn with all the equipment scattered around the place. Everybody would be able to do a little bit of everything. Somebody be over there pressing out the fenders. Somebody else is wiring the lights. And you have all these people working as a kind of generalists, and you can put together a car, but it's slow, it's inefficient, it's a waste of time. And those early cars cost $5,000. Those 1895 Renault was like $5,000. I mean, that's $5,000 back then, not $5,000 now. But the idea of specializing and breaking the task down, well, even that with specialization, Henry Ford took it to the next level. He didn't have to make the brake parts. He contracted out. He didn't have to make the tires. He contracted out with Henry Firestone. He didn't have to make the lights. This is the kind of things where I give you the specs, you do that well, do it, and then give it to me. And what Ford did was to break the task down and specialize, saying, hey, look, your job here is to take this tire, put it on the rim, take the lug nuts, and take your pneumatic wrench and go, woof, 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 woof. The next tire comes over, woof, 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 and that's all you do for 8 hours. Instead of having that person trying to learn 25 different tasks, they specialized. And that gave us more efficient use of our labor. Now that's, again, efficiency, specialization, it all kind of comes together to give us a modern economy where we're using money. We are paying workers with money. They are buying goods and services outside of the factory. Those people then take the money and buy raw materials or services outside, and it kind of circulates. So, when you look at the circulation here, this is another topic that comes in. When you think about it, everybody here is a consumer and a producer. Everybody. You produce let's say you produce intellectual property. You're producing. Let's say you produce produce. You're a farmer. You're producing. But even if you're not that way, you are selling your labor. You are producing by selling your labor, your industry, your hard work, your sweat, your muscle, your brain power, whatever. When you go to work for somebody, you're selling yourself basically to that company. And by doing that, you can kind of see where everything kind of circularly flows. So I'm going to put up the next chart. This chart comes later in the chapter, and it talks about the role of, so you see how everything's kind of blending together now? You've got specialization, you've got the needs, and not being able to fill the needs. We create money. Money allows us to then go buy other people's things. Now you see this kind of tight-knit circle expanding. And then we start talking about global trade, and we talk about getting tea and silk and spices from the Far East and India, and it expands even further, offer more opportunities. So let's take a look at how this kind of flow works. And you saw that with the Nebraska, Idaho, Florida, where it kind of can flow in a circle. Let's take a look at how this is going to work just in a basic sense between the businesses and households. All right, so now we're going to look at the figure 2.2, which is the circular flow, and I'll share that screen. Okay, so here you have the kind of idea that with money now, consumers and producers are, businesses and individual households are tied together. They are both producers and consumers. If you think about it, a business needs raw materials. It needs labor. It needs technology. So it has to buy those things. So it is a consumer of resources. So in the top square, you see the resource market. The resource market is where, think about a produce market or think about a flea market. It's a place where people wish to sell. They can sell. And again, the resource market also includes labor. So you think about job pools, talent pools, listing your resume on Indeed.com. Those are the kind of things where you are putting yourself as a resource, a human resource. So this is all kind of nice to think about. You're just a number. No, you're not just a number. You're part of an economic equation here. You're part of a process. So the businesses will go to this market and they'll obtain, and that's why the red arrow is heading toward them. They're obtaining resources from the market. Now, they are going to put money into that, obviously, to buy it. That's the purple. Okay, those are the costs of doing business, to buy resources. So they are giving farmers money. They are giving you a salary or wage. And then you take that home. Okay, so follow the purple arrow from businesses to the resource market. Now follow it from the resource market down to households. Resource market down to households tells you that the money goes into the household. Okay, that allows you to buy nice things. It allows you to buy a car. It allows you to go on vacation. It allows you to put food on the table in a most basic sense. Now, the household, again, you need to contribute something to this. Okay, you are not going to, under most circumstances, emergency situations notwithstanding, you are not going to obtain things, food, shelter, transportation, vacations, unless you sell something, which includes yourself, your labor. So if you look at it, those kind of resources, whether it is the resource of your labor or the resources that you grow on your family farm or your skill sets, your abilities, okay, your entrepreneurial abilities, those things go to the resource market. Okay, and then it's advertised there, and then it's picked up. Now, let's go look at the products market. Okay, so let's take a look from the business standpoint. Obviously, the business now has the resources necessary. It now takes those resources and makes a product or offers a service because of that. And they send that to the product market. So the product market is now for you. It's a retail store, or it is an online marketplace like Amazon or eBay. Okay, that's where they provide the services. Now they'll get the money for selling it. So that's the purple arrow going back to businesses, which then funds the businesses to go and get more raw materials and more labor. You as a householder come to the market. You purchase goods and services with the money that you have made. And you see that's called consumption expenditures. We'll talk about GDP formulas in later chapters. But basically, 70% of the American economy is consumption. So that is production that is designed to be consumed by people: food, clothing, technology, the small technology, small appliances, vacation services, things like that. All right, so purple arrow shows that we are spending as a household. We come to the product market, we purchase. Whether it's a physical market or an online market, we're purchasing. Goods and services then return to us, keep us warm, make us healthy, give us an opportunity to continue. So we're there, and and that product market. You think about it, like you're a farmer, you're going to go to the farm supply store to get seed, to get blades for your tractors, or to buckets, whatever you're going to need for your farm. You're going to go to the product market, and that helps you as a household deal with that. The family farm now becomes, and it does run like a business, but it gives you an opportunity to keep it running more efficiently. Now, again, look at this for a second here. This is what we would call a closed private economy. Closed because we see no foreign trade into this mix, not open to outsiders, to the foreigners. But also, this is not government. So we're going to throw government into this, and that becomes a tremendously more complex, because even the government is a provider of services as well as a consumer of products and services. So this is how crazy this is going to get. And this is all because we settled down, all because we domesticated plants and animals. It's all because we specialized in our labor. We needed to create money so that more and more business could take place. And as I said, if we add foreign purchases into this, and we add government, this becomes even more of a complex chart. But just to kind of understand, again, and if you have questions, put it on the FAQ page. But everything kind of circulates. It's necessary to circulate. Money is always moving. All right, we're going to get into a concept called the velocity of money, and it sounds kind of like what it implies there. That it's moving and moving faster and faster and faster. And this is the good thing about it, is that we are not a stagnant economy that relies solely on barter. Like I said, if you can think about what if you had to barter yourself to survive, you have no skills. You have no tools, no talents, no products right now. So money helps make the world go round. And we'll get to more about the money creation, banking, and things of that sort. But this is just kind of a fundamental understanding of this. All right. So again, if you have any questions about the circular flow, kind of ideas here, either needs and wants, or in this case, the product and resource market, which is more complex, then put it on the FAQ page.